gurus, cults, worship and prayer. At his death, the Buddha was asked, "Who will replace you?" And his answer was, "No one will replace me." Who will be our teacher? The Dharma. The Dharma will succeed me. The Dharma will replace me. The Dharma is what I leave, my legacy. These were the Buddha's words. There is a Buddhist lineage of monastics, the Buddhist Sangha, as it is today, dating right back to the first ordinations of bhikkhus by the Buddha in his noble disciples, and its continuation thereafter throughout the ages. But the Buddha himself said, there will be no replacement for me, no succeeding teacher to head this organization, if you like. So we look to the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, sometimes called Sakyamuni Buddha, as he was from the Sakyamuni tribe in northeast India, as our teacher. He is no longer alive, but over his 45 years of teaching, he left something like 84,000 suttas, which are a very good and clear instruction and teaching for us and people helping us to interpret and put into practice what he taught. Now essentially, because what the Buddha taught was very simple, the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, then this shouldn't be too difficult. But what happens, and I've experienced Buddhism in different countries, with different traditions, and in different kinds of monasteries within those traditions, within those countries. And it varies considerably. But what does not vary is the Buddha's teachings on the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. This remains and is the constant throughout Buddhism, throughout the ages, throughout all nations, in all traditions of Buddhism. Anything that veers from the Vinaya, which is the rules, guidelines, if you like, set down by the Buddha and adhered to ever since his time, the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, anything other than that is something a little aside, or a lot aside from Buddhism itself. And this is where there becomes confusion, doubt, insecurity. And human nature is such that where there is confusion, doubt, and insecurity, there is a tendency to cling, to attach to something. And of course, the teachings of the Buddha are to let go of clinging, attachment to something. Whether it's something we like, or it's clinging attachment to the fear of something we don't like. We are, as instructed by our teacher, Siddhartha Gautama, Sakyamuni Buddha, to let go. This is where we find freedom and peace of mind. And this we find through the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, which is sila, good behavior, moral virtue, samadhi, meditation, and panya, development of wisdom. But when that insecurity, confusion, doubt arises, and human nature kicks in, this tendency to cling on to, attach, is directed towards rites and rituals. We could call it worship, prayer. Worship being, yes, paying homage, paying respect, bowing down, but putting one's faith in something other than yourself, something outside, a teacher, a prophet, a god, a guru. And prayer, rather than the practice of meditation or chanting really being the only way originally that the Buddha's teachings were transmitted from generation to generation, an effective form of transmission being that teachings were more easily remembered through chanting in these kind of rhyming soliloquies that could be repeated more easily and passed from one person to another. Prayer is requesting, asking, expressing your needs to another outside, being a teacher, a prophet, or a god. Now, of course, within Buddhism we learn that this help we need to become free from suffering in this lifetime comes from within only. Only we can help ourselves. So as soon as we start, through our own insecurities about the practice, the teachings of the Buddha, which have only arisen because of confusion in the way those teachings are conveyed, as soon as this arises, we are clinging to an outsider and thus creating a guru, a prophet, a god. Creating a guru, a prophet, a god in our own minds. The guru isn't necessarily saying, hey, you all come and start praying to me, worshipping me, and practicing what I preach. He may not be even himself practicing what he preaches. But because of those insecurities and the guru's very presence, an affable nature, a charismatic demeanor, and an abundance of good virtues, intellectual knowledge and information, and the ability to answer any question on the spot, enormous trust gets built in this individual. And therefore, very understandably, faith is born. A guru is born. But one must remember in Buddhism, at his death, the Buddha said, I will not be replaced. The Dharma is my legacy, my teachings, the truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the path leading to the end of suffering. This is our teaching, this is the teacher, this is all we need. That doesn't mean there isn't room for ceremonial purposes or temple practices such as chanting, paying homage to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, giving dana. But one must be a little careful not to get overwhelmed by this and forget our precepts, the 5 precepts of a layperson of no killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying or taking intoxicants, and replacing that moral virtue by, let's say, oh, well, okay, I broke these precepts, but I gave so much to this temple. Look at this beautiful chedi I've built. Look how much money I've given. Look how much work I do, even service, for this organization. If you're not keeping the precepts, then that is worthless in terms of your own practice. It's valuable to the organization, to, let's say, the guru or even the cult. But for your own practice, it will not bring you freedom from suffering in this lifetime. What will bring you freedom from suffering in this lifetime is keeping those 5 precepts, meditating and developing the goodness of your mind through that practice, and reducing the bad aspects of your mind, your thinking, through that practice of sila, moral virtue, and meditation. And this is true wisdom. This is where enlightenment comes from, the freedom from suffering in this lifetime. So, worship and prayer don't really have a place in Buddhism. Gurus and cults don't really have a place in Buddhism. That isn't to say Buddhism is a secular, non-religious philosophy. No. It is very much a religion, but without a God, without a living guru. An atheistic religion, as opposed to the Abrahamic forms of religion, or Christianity, Judaism, Islamic faiths, where there is one God. Or in Hinduism, where there is many gods. Now, this tendency through our insecurities, confusion and doubt to cling, to attach to an outside form is what always draws humanity back to this guru, God, prophet, need, requirement. There must be something out there I can pray to for help. Well, this may be good for some and suits all theistic religions. Of course, they are based on that philosophy of there being a higher power to help you. But in Buddhism, we're not denouncing, we're not denying that. But we are first looking to ourselves to solve our problems before we can help others. And then there is nothing wrong with passing on through our experience and sharing with others what we have learnt. But we do not become the guru, the prophet, or the point for somebody's worship. We can be respected, and as monks we can be supported with food and simple requisites. But nothing more than that. We are just sharing our experience. So this must be remembered. If you are to succeed in your practice towards your goal of enlightenment or becoming free from suffering within this lifetime, it can only come from your own efforts, with the guidance of others, noble friends, and teachers if they are experienced to do so, or others practicing along this same Noble Eightfold Path who can share their experiences with you, for you to discern what you wish to take and use or ignore and leave. This is up to you. No praying, no worshipping, no gurus. It isn't a cult. If there is a cult, it can just be you alone. You are your own cult. You believe in yourself. You respect yourself. This knower within this body, with all of its teaching powers that it has to show you the way. So I wish you all the very best with your practice. Keep sila, keep meditating and develop wisdom. Namo Buddhaya.